jumping right in here, let's start with what conscious conception is, because everyone's going to have their own kind of understanding and definition. Here's what it looks like from my perspective and really my professional experience working with many different families through across fertility and pregnancy, birth, postpartum, all the things. Conscious conception is taking some responsibility and kind of ownership over how you care for and nourish your body, your mind, your spirit. It's really looking at holistically the whole picture of you, how you're connecting and nourishing with all aspects of the self. Much of what science and medicine tells us about health and hormones and wellness is really focused on the male body. So we're often like really cued in and focused on like the reproductive organs, reproductive system, and hormones that are at play. Within the woman's body, we're missing a huge area of not only different hormone systems that are at play, but how we can support and balance that whole picture, that holistic, how we can nourish our entire body, our entire being. And unfortunately, this is very often overlooked within just like a regular kind of modern medicine way, but also when we're preparing ourselves for conception, for pregnancy. Second question that y'all had is, what is a spirit baby? So a spirit baby is really, from a shamanic point of view, everything, literally everything, has an energetic essence or like a footprint that it holds, that it kind of leaves behind. And our children, the souls that are looking to come into and be birthed into this world, are no different. They have this energetic essence. And oftentimes, if we are really nourished or just kind of tuned in to our innate wisdom we hold as women, our kind of intuition, which is within women is stronger than we're more connected in that way. We have more of that ability to really drop into our intuition if we allow ourselves to be, if we really kind of focus on that and kind of work on that. We can connect with our intuition. We can connect with the spiritual realms with greater ease. That's not to say that men can't, of course, but that I think within the woman's body, we're just innately more apt to connect with the spiritual realms. And the spirit babies are part of that. I always think of them as just kind of like this essence, this spiritual essence that's really following you throughout your whole life, and kind of helping guide you into the relationships or situations or people that you need in order to grow into the person you need to be, have the experiences and kind of periods of growth or growth opportunities to become the person that child needs in order to be birthed into this world. Looking back and just to share some of my personal experience and story, our conscious conception journey truly began, more serious, like really taking a step back when I first met my partner in the parking lot of our university. Part of me knew that this man was going to make a huge impact on my life, and part of me, an even deeper part that I really at the time wasn't ready, I didn't want to listen to, I didn't want to hear this, but that was going to be the father of my children. And at the time I hadn't realized it, but now it was really my spiritual children following me, kind of letting me know, like, this is the man we need in order to be birthed into this world, in order to have kind of the parents that we wish to have in this lifetime, the lessons they need to have and the support they need from both of us. But yeah, like I said, I was not ready for that. I really had like kind of sworn off having children at all, so that was like not on my real conscious radar at the time. When I really had this womb awakening and this real connection began to form with these spiritual children was with my first pregnancy with my son. I knew the moment conception happened. Like I just knew that this energy had entered into my body and into our lives. Truly, part of that really, I'm sure, has to do with my attunements within Reiki and energy work. But I've also just, I mean, really most of my life been kind of, very intuitive. Had a lot of kind of premonition sorts of dreams or connections with the dream realm. The spiritual realm is always been a part of my life and my experience within this lifetime. And so when that first pregnancy came and there was really this like womb awakening that happened, my partner and I both, we were like, this is, like, I feel like it's a girl, like it's going to be a girl. And for those first few months, like we were really, like this is going to be a girl. And I wish I took better like journal of that first pregnancy, but somewhere along the lines, like something shifted and we were like, no, it's not a girl, it's going to be a boy. And I knew intuitively that was because there was a lot of work that I needed to do around the feminine and womanhood. I held a lot of resentment towards the female relationships I had in my life. They were never as supportive as I like really desired and wanted them to be. Not only within like the feminine relationships I had with like my mother or friends, but also in how I viewed myself and my body and my cycle as a woman. Complete disconnect there. A lot of shame around my sexuality, especially around my sexuality, coming largely from my very religious upbringing. Held a lot of shame and resentment, just very disconnected from the feminine. I was very, the polarities of these masculine and feminine energies are really fluid, but I was very much in the masculine, and that's something I still struggle with, is being very rooted in this masculine energy. But part of this womb awakening that happened with my first pregnancy is like, okay, things like started to really shift for me. And I knew that I had this work that needed to be done before I would even be ready to conceive this second spirit baby, this female energy that was following me and really deeply with me. The birth of my son was blissful and beautiful and really so easy. Like I really found my power, and after birth, like I had connected to my feminine a little bit more. Like I learned like, wow, women are fucking powerful and we can do incredible things. Like we are strong. And that's, they don't talk, like everyone hears about how challenging and painful, but like how about how strong we are to give birth? Like that was my takeaway. And I had found this real connection to the feminine that I hadn't before. Like I remember buying like a couple like pink, really fluffy sweatshirts, and like pink was like never on my on my radar before. Very much a black and kind of muted colors. But like skirts and dresses were starting to call to me. So something had really shifted. And then at the same time of like starting to come back into this feminine, I was very much birthed into the dark mother archetype, this very like destructive, shadowy, just overall dark. I was in such a depression, anxiety, holding so much shame from like my really religious upbringing, and there was just so much darkness is really the simplest way to put it, that I really found myself often like in these really suicidal ideations and mindset that I didn't think I was going to get out of. My body, I was so disconnected from my body, from my body. My hormones were constantly fluctuating, and which is totally normal in postpartum, but I'm talking about like major fluctuations where I was seeing like, increase and decrease of 20 pounds or more within a menstrual cycle. And the doctors, nobody really had any constructive insight or steps I could take to help come back to myself. So, at one point I just like knew, I was like, okay, I have to take care of myself. I have to come back to nourishing myself, which was completely new. Being a new mom, it was a completely new ball game. It wasn't, the simple self-care things I had done up until that point. It was a complete overhaul, and that's really when I dove into birth work and like wanting other women to know that if you're not birthing and feeling like rainbows and butterflies, you're okay and you're normal, and that there is potent medicine to be had in those dark aspects of motherhood, in those shadow aspects. Really, in postpartum and motherhood in general, we're facing all of our limiting beliefs, all of the aspects of ourselves that we aren't super proud of or didn't want to face come to the forefront. As a new mom, I didn't realize that, and it was extremely overwhelming. So that's really what drove me into birth work. And from birth work, I realized that yes, women need support in birth and pregnancy, but unfortunately, this kind of support and connection and really reconnection, remembering of our power and wisdom that we hold innately starts before pregnancy. It starts with this conscious conception. So I kind of put birth work on a hold and was like, okay, we need to dive into how do we care for the female body? And that again goes back to this overall nourishment on a holistic level, really supporting the female body throughout the constant shifts that are happening as she moves through the 4 seasons, through that lunar or menstrual cycle. That is how we can, one of the many ways we can come back to this really innate connection we have within ourselves and within the female body. So once we have this connection, this really baseline sense of nourishment for the physical body, we can begin to play around with the emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects, the spiritual bodies. Through this, we can connect with our spirit baby through kind of these more esoteric ways. Meditation, of course, is great. Really diving deep into the womb and seeing and just asking the question, whether it's through a shamanic journey, a guided meditation, asking if there is an energy or an essence, a spirit that wishes to be born, and what messages they hold for you. What do they need from you in order to fully prepare for their birth? And for me, that looked like completely changing a lot of my relationships and the way I related with the women and the feminine aspects of myself, my sexuality. Through that dark period, I really overcame a lot of limiting beliefs and a lot of shame I held around my sexuality, around what it means to be a woman, just in general. And then it was really last year. I remember it so clearly. It was a super moon. It was a flower moon in May. And, I had been foraging some violets, and, I remember just getting this really clear messaging from this spirit baby, like, I am ready, like, you are ready, now is the time. And at that time, I was still not sure. I didn't think that I was quite ready. There was like steps and things I wanted to do before I had brought this new life in. There were still things on that very masculine to-do list that I wanted to accomplish before bringing another human, another life into this world. So I made the really conscious like decision and effort. I was like, okay, we are not going to conceive this cycle. And when we didn't, I really lost a lot of connection with that spirit baby. I lost, this really rather direct line of communication we had. And it really, how they communicated was more through like nudges and like you should do this for yourself, take care of yourself in this way. This is what you need to nourish yourself. I had lost a lot of that. Unfortunately, fortunately, kind of on a flip side of that, I really found some some of my best and most powerful female friendships after that time, and really fostered some great female relationships, that helped me change how I relate to and connect with other women. And I think that was also very necessary. There was some major shifts that happened even after that disconnect between me and my spirit baby. There were some really growth points that followed that. My connection and relationship with my mother was healed and dramatically improved. I learned how to receive and how to be really vulnerable and open, how to speak my needs, not in like a very bossy way, but just in like a genuine, like, this is what I need from you, which is, I think, something a lot of women struggle with. And yeah, so that that past year was really, well, I thought like I had lost this baby, I had lost this connection. It probably wasn't going to happen. Starting fall of last year, maybe moving into winter, me and my partner started to discuss, like, oh, we really we really do want to have another child. And intuitively I knew that I was to birth another child. I just wasn't sure, with everything that was going on in the world. I was like, it doesn't feel like a good time. There's like this isn't it. And we really discussed it back and forth. Like, we had really found this new rhythm, this new balance and routine within our lives with just our son, and we were, all of us, just like really overwhelmingly happy and content. So it was a hard decision for us to make, but ultimately, like, I knew that this child was to be born of us, and that it needed to come through. And to be honest, part of me, like, just kind of wanted that to be over. I wanted the whole pregnancy and newborn and early toddlerhood stage, like, to get through it, to be quite frank. So again, it was another full super moon, the flower moon, and I had that little nudge. She came back and kind of whispered, like, now is the time. And I had spent, the past 3 years really balancing my hormones, connecting with my womb, and all of these beautiful practices I found to connect me with the feminine. I was ovulating on this full moon. I was really following that kind of cycle of the white moon, and it just felt, like I was in that really nurturing state already. And I was like, okay, we're gonna go for it. And during that intercourse, I felt her and her essence with us, and I welcomed her into our life, into my body. And there was a picture that I shared that was like post-conception. I had this nudge that she was there. It wasn't as strong as with my son, like, where, like, I knew the second he was conceived, like, here I am, I'm here. This was much quieter, and she was much quieter through those early weeks of pregnancy. I hadn't really even thought about it after conception. We kind of just went about our lives, and it was some way that my grandmother had looked at me, and this was about 4 weeks pregnant, that I remembered. I was like, oh shit, that's right, we had tried to conceive. And we did. And I got that positive test, and to be honest, initially was really facing a lot of grief. While I was so grateful that we conceived with ease, and the conception and everything was like so auspicious and perfect in the way that I dreamed it could be and would be, I knew that we were going to face a lot of changes, and that everything was going to get shifted. And I was very sad and very distraught. Those first week, like 4 to 6, was just filled with a lot of grief, for my son, that he wasn't going to be the only child, for myself and our relationship, that we were really shaking things up again. And that's in no way to say we weren't grateful, or really excited, but I had just flashed forward to being birthed in this darkness, and like remembering all of the grief that happens and follows birth. And it was almost like I moved through that within those first weeks of knowing I was pregnant, that I moved through all that grief. And I still obviously have moments of it. But this spirit that's with me now was so quiet. She really didn't make herself known, and I'm saying she. I really do believe and feel like it's a girl. I could be completely proven wrong. We'll see. But following those 2 weeks of her just being very quiet, I remember just asking her, like, if you are here, give me a sign, let me know that you're okay and that you're here. And from like halfway through week 6 until really still, but more seriously, like 13-14 weeks, I was so extremely sick and really put back through the ringer and put back into survival mode. My connection to my intuition was very quiet, as I really needed to focus on just tending to my physical body, making sure I was eating and drinking enough, keeping enough fluids down. There was a trip to the ER because I was just so dehydrated and weak, and that again was another, really awakening point and moment where I was like, okay, this baby does not wish to be birthed in this way, in this very medical setting. This auspicious conception and what will be auspicious birth is going to happen differently. It's going to really birth me into light, more deeply into my purpose. And I'm so excited, so excited to share more of what has come through for me, and how I'm really looking forward to moving through this pregnancy. And while I truly thought and desired I was going to share like weekly videos, those first, those 6 or 7 weeks of survival and surrender reminded me that nourishing and caring for myself and my physical body is and will always be the number one importance. And we're feeling much better now. So I'm excited to be back online, to be connecting with you all, and thank you all for your well wishes. I'm excited to share more as the weeks continue, and kind of flashing back to where I've been and where this pregnancy has taken me already, and sharing more of the really powerful insights that have been coming through. If you have any more specific questions on conscious conception, be sure to drop them in the comments of this video. I love talking to you all and really connecting and helping guide you through fertility and pregnancy and all the things womanhood. So thank you again for being here.